Our current president, Brett Hayes, is on his way over here right now. He's over and getting ready for the Oscars Award, which is happening directly after this. Doors will be opening at 5:30 is when we're going to be starting that. So as soon as we're done here, we're going to do a recap of 2020, and then we're going to be moving into our 3-year strategic plan for the next 3 years. And we'll do that, and then we're going to head over there for those that want to join us. So hang tight for just a sec. Mr. President.
Welcome. Thank you so much for coming to the State of the Industry presentation. This is going to be one of the most exciting ones we've had in a number of years, because I think the HAA 2.0 plan is going to knock your socks off. We put a lot of effort into this and did a lot of surveying, and I feel like we're heading in a great direction. As far as a recap of last year, wow, anybody else have a good year? But we made the most of it. We did a number of HAA Live presentations on both the stimulus plans and how HANTS and other groups in our industry could take advantage of those programs. We funded, along with 13th Floor Entertainment Group and a couple of other entities, funded a lobbying effort in Washington that resulted in funds and interest-free loans being available to businesses in the live event space and in the seasonal entertainment space in this most recent round of funding that would not have otherwise been there. When the first round came out, they wanted you to show the difference in your quarter 2 2020 income from your quarter 1, which obviously, if you're a HANT, you probably didn't have any income in quarter 1 or 2. So we funded that, put a lot of effort into that, hired a really good lobbying firm, and got those things included that were important. We made the decision, which was difficult from an internal funding decision, but was the right thing to do, that we would roll over all the memberships from 2020 into 2021, so we didn't come looking for additional membership dues from anyone. And we did our best to get through the year, as I know all of you did with your attractions, and those of us who were lucky enough to open and those who couldn't. So I personally would just like to really thank you for coming. I think we had a great year. I'm excited from the standpoint that I've had 2 terms as president, separated by 1 in the middle just due to aging out on my years on the board and that sort of thing. And our new president incoming is going to be Mr. Spencer Terry, who is full of energy and has some great ideas, and you're going to be fortunate enough to learn of those tonight. So at this point, I'd like to hand the floor over to Spencer. And please join us next door for the Oscars. I'm going to get that ready.
Thank you, sir. I'm going to switch over to wireless really quick. While I'm doing that, obviously, as you all know, this usually happens in March. Test, test. So, because this is happening in May, that also means that things are a little bit tricky for logistics. Typically, as a board, almost all the board is up here, and in this case, we have about half of our board who is not here. They obviously had plans, or they've got events going, or something else. And so, as we get ready, you've got some of our board members that are here on Zoom. Obviously, it's pretty hard to tell with these lights on, but we have all of our crew. So you've got our team, which we're going to show you photos in a minute, so you'll have a chance to. I'm going to get away from this podium mic though, because I can see that that's going to be pretty. There's going to be some feedback. So when we talk about our board, some of them are going to be here, some of us are going to be here, some of us are going to be over in Oscars as we get ready for our presentation. So when we talk about what this 2.0 plan is, what that's going to look like, at the end of the day, we all recognize that HAA has done some great things for the industry, but there's a lot more that we can do. And this was an opportunity, I think, for us in the COVID world to realize, as many of us were pivoting our attractions, we as an association also have to pivot. And that includes a pretty big shift in how we've been doing things in the past, what we're going to be looking for in the future, and that's what we're going to cover today. This is also obviously going to be recorded, so this will be published as well for folks that are not here, because again, this is industry-wide. We know that not everyone's going to be at Trans World, and it's important for us to get this message out. because there's going to be a lot of things coming. So, that said, we're going to get started with how this is going to unfold. I'm going to move this out of the way a little bit because I want to be able to see this. So, when we talk about HAA 2.0, we didn't do introductions really quick, did we? A couple of people are already gone. Brett introduced himself. John, do you want to roll and start really quick?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just going to be brief. My name is John Schwartz. I own Scare USA Haunted Attraction located in Two Rivers, Wisconsin.
Hello, I'm Todd Tradition, owner at Reaper's Revenge in Scranton, Pennsylvania, and I'd like to thank the videography team from my haunt as well as TMTMG Media Group to help with recording this.
Hello, my name's Robert Garcia. I'm the owner of Soul Dreams in Puerto Rico.
And you've got...
Hello again.
And you have on Zoom, I know these are going to be really hard to see, but I obviously have Michael Edwards from Tearing the Corn out in Colorado. You've got Jim, who is, Jim goes from, I've got Jim, it looks like Alex Rodriguez from Florida, Cody Bailey, who's our incoming vice president. I was going to say we can probably switch.
Yeah, you guys talk as we say your names. Nobody else talk though.
They can bleed in
I
here.
don't know what's happening.
Yeah. So, needless to say, we're all here. It obviously just looks like we're fragmented a little bit. So, but that said, let's get started on what this is going to be because we want to get ready for certainly Oscars as well. So, when we look at HAA 2.0, how many of you, just by raise of hands, filled out either the member survey or the industry-wide survey? Put your hands up really high. So you're going to see some of the data that came from that. There's about 120 pages worth of data that we recovered from those surveys. Hundreds of different folks took them, which was really great to see. And that's going to allow us to be able to leverage these numbers to help us figure out where we're moving and what direction we're going to go in. There were 3 different surveys total. The first one was the Board of Directors Internal Audit Survey. We audited ourselves to do a survey about bandwidth, expertise, what do we want to do better, and how are we going to be able to provide that. Number 2, the current member survey. So anyone who's currently a member of the HAA, the Haunted Attraction Association, received a specific invite. And as we aggregated the data, we also kept membership survey information separate from our industry-wide survey. And then some of these we collectively added together, and we'll show you what that looks like. Number 3 was the industry-wide survey. Again, this went to pretty much everyone. Actors, makeup artists, build, tech, operators, owners, vendors, you name it. It went out to everyone. So we launched all of those. It is a way to help make sure that at the end of the day, we don't want to just be making up ideas or policy or changes that aren't member-driven or aren't industry needs. That was really important to us. So in this case, from the data, and just so you all know, some of you may or may not be able to see this if you're in the back, this PowerPoint will be available probably about a week or so once we unveil this entire thing and we actually are going to roll out this retransmission. But in this case, what you can see is the member survey on your left and the industry-wide survey on your right. What we saw was a lot of what we expected, which is that the trend was similar. Both internal numbers and external numbers of HAA membership were showing about the same thing. So in this case, what are the top 3 things that the reasons why you joined HAA or you'd want to join HAA? Access to resources, personal growth, and being connected as part of a network. These 3 things consistently were the majority of what we talked about when it comes to what we want as members. Some other data. Overall, how would you rate the HAI and how we're supporting the industry right now? Low is 1, 4 is high. This is no surprise to us because one of the things that we talked about in our internal assessment is that we need to be doing more and we're not doing it. And I think part of that was because we were engaged in certainly crisis control on our own end of making sure that COVID was being taken care of on our own attractions. But we recognize that this is a number that has to go up, and that's part of this HAA 2.0 that we're going to be talking about. So the average right now is a 2.5 average number of this specific question. Each year we're going to be measuring this, and you can see there's goals at the bottom of here. The white goal will be pretty much March 2022. March 2023 will be in blue, and March 2024 is going to be in purple. This is going to be happening. These little ghosts that are in these presentation rooms are having a lot of fun. So this will come back. So those are the three different colors that you're going to see throughout this entire PowerPoint. Those are obviously the measurables to make sure that we're looking good as we look at a 3-year plan. But again, 2.5, it's not great. And we know that we can do better. When we talk about overall, how pleased are you in regards to what you're getting as an HAA member? Again, we're glad that people are feeling, obviously over 50% of people feel that they are getting some really good benefits, but quite frankly, that should be 100%. As members, and certainly as board members, we want to do what we can to provide more resources, and there's a lot of things that have not been in place for as members or industry folks to be able to reach out to us, to ask questions, see what we can get figured out, and go from there. I just saw Eddie's in here as well. Eddie, hi. So, when we look at 2.0, Eddie's also one of our board members from with the Terra. So when we look at 2.0, one of the things that we really wanted to look at is how do we as a board, how do we as a board transition this? And kind of the analogy that we've been talking about is that the boat's been headed in an interesting direction, but at this point we've got to change. And so it's going to change a couple of degrees each year to where we're pointing in a different direction. The idea is to not just change an association, the determination is to change a culture. We want to look at an industry as an association to help lead that change of making sure that there's more resources shared between members. We're going to be talking about both board member and members that are going to be collectively teaching content because we recognize, even though you all want us to help be the experts to help teach a lot of that content, we know that you as members, you know a lot as well. And so we want to collaborate on that. 2.0 is going to also look at a shift, not only of who we are, but how we think, how we do, how we act, all of that. So this is your entire board of directors. This is who is voted on. The officer vote has already happened, which is a top 4. So myself, Cody, Terry, and Jim will be staying on as officers. Both Brett and Billy are going to be moving back down to the board of directors, thank goodness, because we'll have their resource still on board. And then when we look at the rest of the team, the nice part is that we do have board memberships that are currently open. So one of the things that we're currently looking at is making sure that we're vetting board members who meet the bylaw requirements of owning or operating a HAA for 5 years or more, and making sure that they have a lot of the skills or the expertise that you all throughout this data wanted to have within a board member. So we'll talk about that. So for those of you, if you are interested, you feel like you do have the credentials and certainly meet the bylaws, find one of us, we can connect you to the link. That vote's going to be happening as terms end. And then you'll also, if you are a member, in fact, really quick, how many of you are current members of the association? Really high. Okay. So for those of you that are members, you're going to be getting an email probably in the next, probably 30 days, because we'll also be getting ready to vote in new board members. There will be pictures, there will be bios, there will be credentials, and then members are going to be voting for folks that want to be put on the board, and we'll go from there. The next part to 2.0 was to then look at how we shifted to getting all of this data and really boiling it down and kind of really funneling down the data to make sure that we had the right direction in motion. So we then built a steering committee of at least half of us as board. The steering committee at this point, I was looking at numbers the other day because somebody asked me, we're well over 200 hours that we have been able to, that we've invested in reading over the data, connecting the networks that we need to connect with, brainstorming, getting folks on board who are going to be providing the numbers, the data, what you all are going to need to be more resourceful, to have the skills that you need, to have templates, to have content, networking opportunities, all of that. And we're going to drill that down in just a second. So everyone that's on these orange colors are the steering committee. Collectively as a board, we all have reviewed this plan. We've reviewed it for a couple of different times. And so I think one of the great things is that this is our accountability as board members, is we're your board. And so we're working on how do we do things better.
Most of the board members have already stepped up to help champion either an idea or ideas or events that are going to be coming, all of the above. So there's some pretty good things that we're excited to see. So this steering committee essentially was kind of the strategic screen, if you will. So we took all the data, we then took the steering committee, we got everybody on board, we read through the data, and that kind of screening process helped us filter out what we needed versus what we wanted, and how, and we meaning membership and certainly the industry. What were the things that you all were asking for? From there, we built a 3-year plan, and that plan is divided into different sections. So there's a low-hanging fruit, middle-hanging fruit, high-hanging fruit, year 1, year 2, year 3. So in this case, when we talk about the goals, one of the things is that we know very well that obviously it's not going to make any difference to just simply be talking about, yay, here's this cool stuff that's going to be happening. In this case, we all of our goals are SMART-based driven to make sure that they are specific, they're measurable, they're accountable, they're reliable, they're realistic, and they're obviously within a time constraint. So this is part of our goal of looking at how are we going to measure what's coming, how we're doing. And each year, at the end of the year, you'll also be getting a survey that Cody Bailey, our Vice President, is going to be heading up, looking at an industry-wide pulse, an industry-wide survey, which will help us understand data more of what you all need, what you're wanting, what trends are coming for incoming years, certainly for our industry, for entertainment industry in general, including theme parks, amusement parks, connections, obviously industry, escape rooms, making sure that we have all of that coming together. So in this case, our goals. So in this case, we're looking at increasing membership. So these are the numbers, again, that I'm not going to go over because you can see them. But in this case, you've got the white text that's going to be for 2022. 2023 will be in blue. 2024 is going to be in purple. So right now, the idea is that on an individual membership level, which is a $50 level, that's it. This is for anyone. Anyone can be part of this level. If you're a makeup artist, if you're an actor, if you're a build crew, tech crew, security, you name it. This is, even if you're an owner or operator, this is an individual level for smaller operations to be able to still get the resources that you need. If you're a startup, if you're a mom and pop, if you're a home haunt, there's a lot of things that we want to make sure you have. Operator and business tiers, we want to increase that by 6% obviously for the first year, and those are pretty much going to double from there. And again, we recognize that this isn't going to happen unless you have resources that are available and there's a membership benefit and a membership ROI that is it's way higher than what you currently are getting, and that's part of what we'll talk about as well as how we're building that ROI. The second goal is to increase survey scores, so across the board. Again, we talked about this already. At the end of the year, we're going to be getting surveys. We're going to be capturing this data, and we want to see certain metrics increasing. There they are for at least 2022, 3, and 4. And then not only for how well are we supporting the industry overall right now, but how pleased are you in what you get as a member. The goal is to give more to our members. Number 3 is to facilitate 12, these are minimums, 12 minimum online networking resources and sharing opportunities. One of the things, again, networking was by far the highest demand of what people want, that we're going to make that happen. We have technology now. Obviously, most of us are using Zoom at this point. So it makes no sense that we should not be harnessing that. So we're going to start doing some trainings and videos. There's content specifically. We'll talk about what those content topics were that you all told us that you want us to teach about, or that you want to connect other people to, or that you may just need resources of. And again, this is going to be board member and member specific. So as members, we're going to be also polling our members to say, hey, if you feel like you've got good content, you feel like you're an expert in this specific area, it may be ag, maybe it's agriculture haunts. We have board members that are pretty good about that, but we also want members who can add on to that because there's going to be different perspectives that we can share. And we're going to make sure there's at least 12 of those are going to be happening. The goal is to do a lot more of them though. Again, they're going to be networking based and learning based. So from the networking perspective, we're going to do a couple of mixers. We'll also be looking at attendance levels because what's applicable for me at Fear Factory Haunted House in Salt Lake City is not going to be the same as a home haunt in Oklahoma. It's going to be different. We have 60,000 people plus that are coming through. A home haunt may have 20, maybe 200 or 300 or 1,000. So what we want to do then is figure out how do we make sure that those resources are available as applicable memberships as well. So, thank you, little ghosts. So networking is going to be happening through mixers, certainly on specific, again, attendance-based items. So we're going to make sure there's mixers for 0 to 10,000, 10,000 to 30,000, 30,000 and above for attendees. That's also going to happen for when we look at learning, making sure that there are specific topics that you all have resources on that we can then continue sharing. Collectively, there really is a lot of resource available and a lot of knowledge within the membership, and we want to be able to really blow that up and take that to the next level. When it comes to marketing, the blues are people who said they want to hear more from the HAA. We know that. We agree. We have not done a really good job of marketing ourselves. We've done a pretty good job, but we do need to do more. We want to do more because the more people we know, we're able to leverage numbers. We've had several conversations at the booth already about how we're leveraging insurance rates, how we're leveraging purchasing power from vendors, how we're looking at even small things like printing. How do we make sure that you all have resources that you need to do things better and cheaper in your industry? Same thing in this case. So when you're looking at a Facebook page, this is one of the things that, again, we're using technology. We tried this a couple of years ago. Not gonna lie, I don't know that the technology was there or that the user base was there. But now we have a pretty decent following through a lot of really great groups like Pro Hunters Hang Out, Hunters Hang Out, the list goes on and on and on. We'll be creating a specific members-only Facebook group page. That's where we're going to be sharing a lot of this content, all the resources, the videos, a lot of extra data that's going to be available for you all. And if you're not a member, you can certainly buy that data, or you'll be able to buy a membership that will allow you to get that access. Let me check this. It doesn't disappear on here, right? It's just the projectors?
No, it is. It's disappearing on there.
Okay. So obviously Facebook's going to be happening. We're still going to send out scream zines and all the different things that you're used to getting as well, because we want to make sure that some people still prefer an email. They still prefer scream zine versus digital, and we want to make sure that we're diversifying that. On the board expectations, so again, you can see one of the questions specifically was, what do you want from us as a board? What are the 3 things that you want? Education, sharing knowledge, being mentors and resources. These are all things that we also agree that we want to be able to do more. Alan Hops, one of our other board members, had a really great idea and said, why don't we create a directory where you all know who we are, where you can reach out to us? And that's part of this Facebook group, is that we'll be able to all be in there. So if you're like, hey, I got a question, someone's hitting me up about ADA, I don't know very much about the compliance for ADA, who can I reach out to? Pull up the board list. There will be a list of expertise rated on low, medium, and high of how well we understand that specific content. Some of us know it better than others, but then reach out to us, please. That's what we want. We want to be able to be a better resource. If we don't have the knowledge, we do know who does. That's the reality. And so we want to be able to build this network a lot stronger. In this case, we talked, one of the other survey components was, how do we spend money? How do we spend membership money? For those of you that were at the auction last night, and thanks to the many vendors that helped donate to that, so we know that this year, it was a hard year for everyone, including our vendors. So for the vendors that were donating, we love them. Thank you so much. And we're actually building a whole other vendor member ROI that we'll talk about really briefly as well. In this case, we're looking at money specifically. So money that's raised from the auction from last night, money that's raised through membership. There's a lot of things that we're trying to do on our end to really cut those down. This is at least the data specifically that you all gave us. This is a collective data of both board member, and industry-wide numbers. So in this case, there's things on here that we currently have that you're telling us that we don't necessarily need. So we're going to go back and reevaluate. Like obviously HAA member shirts, that's the lowest thing that's on there. Maybe we don't need to have member shirts as much. Or we look at how that's at least being spent appropriately. Member portal docs obviously was really big. Bottom one on the left, HAA swag. Again, swag, we know that's important for a lot of you. Members are already coming to the booth and taking all the swag that they get for the year, so we're going to figure out ways that we can look at that. But obviously, our other big things, so the crisis hotline, the member portal documents. Chaos training is the #1 highest thing that's on there. So we want to make sure that we're providing that training, and there's actually a new level of chaos class that we're going to be talking about specifically for actors. We're looking at a system-wide, a standardized training for our entire industry for actors as well. Learning topics. So these were the topics that we asked you. What do you want to know? It's kind of hard to see, but it's pretty diversified. You got everything from projection mapping to insurance, staff incentives and support. Obviously looking at volunteers versus employees. Rise was pretty low, so we probably won't cover a topic there, but these are the topics that we're going to cover. We're going to take the top 12, top 15 of these. These are going to be those videos that we're going to get ready. And if there's other additional resources we can do, we're going to do that as well. So these are the topics that you're telling us that you want to hear from, and this is where we're kind of pretty much taking note and moving forward with it. So let's talk about the plan. Excuse me. So in this case, our mission has 3 components: promote, protect, and educate. So those 3 are kind of our filter of making sure that what we're doing fits our strategic plan, is what you asked us to do, and meets one of those 3 criteria. So in this case, for promoting, I'm going to come down really quick because I'm going to read some of this as well. So for promoting, when it comes to marketing, again, we're going to market the industry better, more efficiently. We're also going to be doing a better job of also marketing ourselves, making sure that we're doing that. There's a lot that comes with that, and we'll drill that down in just a second. On the networking end, obviously this Facebook membership group, that's going to be a big deal to really help connect people and connect resources and connect our industry better. I think a lot of times we feel very fragmented. I mean, even for us as Spirit Factory, when we were trying to figure out what in the world we were going to do for COVID, we reached out to a few folks and we were trying to connect with people, and we wanted to be able to have a place where we could have done that more faster and collectively. And so this is where this Facebook group is going to be really helpful. When it comes to vendors, how we can promote vendors better as well. Obviously, vendors are a huge part of our industry. There's a lot of new stuff that's out there right now. It's just phenomenal to see that 2020 was the silver lining, and there was a lot of more creativity that came out of that, which was really awesome. But how do we then support our vendors more? Because they are certainly part of this industry. They're helping support HAA initiatives. They're also supporting us as operators. And so we want to make sure we're supporting them. On the event side, we're going to continue the events that we're doing, obviously, State of the Industry, Oscars, yesterday was the auction, but we're also going to be looking at some new, I'm sure it's a connection thing. But, okay. So we're also going to be looking at some of the events that we're doing. We're also looking at 2 years out, and this may actually happen next year, of creating specific HAA member events, or we're going to be sponsoring and collaborating with some partners to be able to do some of those events, which means members get free tickets, or maybe it's free drinks, or it's something that we can do because we want to be able to give back to the members. But if we're in that room together, we're also able to network together and continue building a stronger web. When it comes to the protect side of things, we're obviously going to continue the chaos class. Our chaos class is by far the #1 thing that most people think is beneficial for not only HAA membership, but industry-wide. How do we protect each other at the end of the day? If something bad is going to happen in one haunted house, every one of us in the room just got affected. I don't care if it's in the US or I don't care if it's in another country. We saw that in the escape rooms. Any of you escape room operators? When Poland happened, there was this shockwave that happened within that industry, very similar. So we're going to do what we can to continue looking at how we protect the industry and protect attractions through both chaos certification and other trainings that we're going to be offering. The resource library. So this is one of the big things that Cody's going to be working on as Vice President. We're collaborating with a lot of resources that are out there, guides from Homeland Security about what to do in crisis situations, crowded places guidance, active shooter scenario training. Those are all resources that we can get now, and we want to be able to put that all in one place so that members can go to that, figure out what they need to do, and do some pre-planning before hopefully there's a crisis that they have to take care of. We're also going to be doing, part of that resource library includes HR. So think of intellectual property policy, or a drug policy, or an attendance policy, or any kind of policies or procedures that are part of an HR handbook or a handbook for employees or volunteers. Our Fear Factory one is 42 pages. And so we're looking at all of those different policies, as well as working with the Society of Human Resource Management to be able to give that policy, and you all be able to cut, copy, and paste it. You'll be able to put your logo on there, call it a day. You have those policies, which now protects you as owners and operators. It reduces your liability, and your staff's going to have better training. It's win-win. That resource library is going to hopefully roll out next. Actually, we'll start seeing those resources hit before this fall season. Accountability. So one of the things that we're doing is not only holding ourselves accountable as as board members, and how we're helping make sure this is happening, but we're also looking at measures to ensure that what's happening industry-wide is consistent. So by 20, all able to make a bigger impact. When it comes to educating, we're looking at specific things for both in-person and online. Typically, HAA has been an in-person only. That is shifting dramatically. We certainly are still going to do a lot of in-house here at Transworld. We're looking at other conventions. We're going to try and get 1 or 2 classes, chaos classes at MHC, hopefully this year, if not by next year for sure. But the idea is we want to be able to do more. We also announced last year that chaos certifications are going to have, this is part of our guidance from the National Fire Protection Agency, as well as our internal policy of how we want to make sure that we're creating standard for the association, is chaos certification has a 3-year limit. That's going to allow, because there's some states, I don't know if some of you may not know this, but some states, they actually require their attractions to go through chaos certification in order to operate in that state. That now has a new process that includes recertification, so we have to update that as well. So one of the things that we'll be doing is we're going to offer that recertification online, so that you don't have to be here for just 1 credit. That just doesn't make sense. If you still want to be here to Transworld, you want to be part of the party and do the learning and networking, great, but we want to give that resource available online. So by 2023, that's going to be happening online, and we'll have a single credit class that will be your recertification for that. And that'll actually be a specific class to kind of capture everything. Also online, obviously, they're learning the resources that we're going to be doing, these panels that we've been talking about, mixing each other up, really getting to know each other, connecting all those dots. Outreach, we're looking also at how we're able to do things just better in general. Events, marketing, supporting you, that's going to happen through a lot of different ways. Accessibility, obviously we talked about this already. We want to be available for you. That's it, pretty simple. And then, of course, further education. We're looking at a training certification program that's going to happen industry-wide. Again, this is for chaos, specific to actors. So think of a standardized training for if your actors can touch customers. There needs to be a standardization for that. Weapons training, health and hygiene, sexual harassment. Those are all things that we can bundle together, create a certification program within chaos for actors. All of those folks that are members on the associate level, that $50 level, or excuse me, the individual level, that $50 level, they're able to get all that resources and get that training, which we're going to be, we want to make sure is going to be designed not only by us, we're going to partner with a couple of education firms, and certainly with some of the actor trainers that are already in our industry doing really good things. They're going to be able to help us with that as well. We've already reached out to them, they're already on board. So really quickly, I'm going to recap this. I'm going to go through a couple of extra little details really quick. So I'm going to, if you take the promote, protect, and educate, and kind of expand that and really drill down what we're going to be doing, this is that plan. I don't want to go over all of it in detail because I know we don't have a ton of time, but I am going to cover a couple of things specifically that we haven't covered yet. Obviously, one of the other things that we want to do, we talked about this already, is we're recording this specific seminar. We'll be recording content like the Oscars Awards that we'll be able to then distribute industry-wide for folks that are not here at Transworld, as well as a lot of times we can learn a lot. I learn a lot from people who receive awards because they've done it. I mean, if you're a Lifetime Achievement Award for HAA, you know this industry, you've literally dedicated your life to it. So we're going to be working with a couple of other partners to do documentaries within each of those awards so that they can then have an opportunity to do a documentary. It's kind of a really cool living legacy video of who the awardees are. They're able to talk to us about, on camera, what are the learning points? What did they learn? How did they fall on their face? And be able to then publicize that again for members. And that'll be a really cool resource library to have as well as we look at how we can learn from each other. There's the things that we'll continue doing. If you've been in a seminar at Trans World, you obviously see HAA is the exclusive seminar sponsor. We'll continue doing that. Then, of course, just marketing who we are, what we do. The PR campaign, for most people, if you don't know, the PR campaign, if you think about, when you see USA Today or the Travel Channel or Forbes or any of these national media outlets that say, here's our top 50 haunted houses in the country, and you'll see these different names that are on there, and you're like, I wonder how they get on the list. It's the PR campaign. So what we do is all of our members, we take that information, they submit content, they submit pictures, that then goes to the PR campaign, which is headed up by Lou Hammond Group. They then take that to the national media publications, and when those folks need to run a story on Halloween or safety or actors or you name it, they go to that resource list and say, oh, this is a haunted house that's in Tennessee, I can do a local story specific to that within my local market. That's how that happens. We're that connection point. So that's a pretty big deal, and you can say, I think that was the number 3 thing that people said was most beneficial for them as a member. So that's the PR campaign. Obviously, Top Haunts by year 2024, we're looking at creating a multi-tiered Top Haunts program. That's something that we've been brainstorming for a couple of years, and we're looking at how we're going to do that, what that criteria is going to be. Because right now, a lot of times people say, oh, HAA is just for the biggest haunted houses in the country. That is not true. We have small haunted houses, we have nonprofits, we have 10,000 or less attendants that are on the board. Most of us were home haunters at one point in time, and so we want to find out ways that we can reward folks that are just kicking butt in our industry on smaller levels, medium levels, and large levels. So we're looking at what that's going to be and how that criteria is going to affect members specifically, which that is an exclusion. Members are the only ones that are available for those awards. Networking. Making sure, obviously all the training that we've talked about, the mixers, everything that we're going to be doing, plus hopefully having some HAA events, which will help us just better network. We'll also have a member directory. So for those of you that are members, you're going to be able to get all of those resources together. So if you're traveling to another state, you're like, hey, I'm going to drive through Illinois and I want to go stay at a couple of haunted houses. You can pull the state up and actually check it out. You'll be able to connect them and see what you can figure out from there. When it comes to vendors, again, we're going to increase a lot of the ROI on that end. Robert Garcia has helped put together this really awesome member benefit package. These are things that the vendors are already doing this. They're already donating things for the auction. We're now tripling or quadrupling that value to really help broadcast and signal boost who they are, what they're doing, new products coming down the line, what they're doing for our industry, etc. Last but not least, the events, of course, that we're looking at, how we're going to do those. Robert's also going to be heading up a really cool production shift. So if you haven't been to Oscars in the past couple of years, this will be probably one of the last times that you're going to see it in this form. It's going to be a full production next year. We'll be working with vendors who are going to be able to actually put some pretty cool props in there. It'll be very interactive, lighting, the whole works. We're a show business. Like, we put on shows, and we think that the award should also be a show. So we'll be looking at how we're going to roll that out. Hopefully by next year. It'd be really awesome. Protect. We covered most of this already. Chaos classes. Good to go. Again, we're going to branch out into most everything that we do is where obviously the masses are, which is here at Trans World. But we also want to reach out to a couple of other places because we know that not everyone has a chance to come to Trans World, or maybe it's every 2 years or 3 years that they come here, and so we want to find other ways that we can reach them. We've talked about this resource library already, what those are going to look like. There's also a feasibility study that's going to be happening by end of 2023. That'll be a certified vendor program. There are rumors and stories and evidence as far as that there are some vendors that aren't as good as others. We want to make sure that we're creating a plan to, again, protect our membership so that they know who they should be buying from, who they shouldn't be buying from. We recognize that being the police in the industry is very tricky, but it's something that we think is beneficial, that the members think is beneficial. So we're going to be looking at how that criteria is going to be evaluated. Kind of like a Better Business Bureau, but in a little bit of a different form. And obviously that's the feasibility studies to figure out how that's going to happen. Strength in numbers, obviously we want to leverage everything. We're going to leverage what we do, how we do it. Already there's some new membership ROI. I'm going to talk about these in just a second about how we've been able to leverage what we already have and the discounts that are already there. And then board diversification. One of the things that we recognize is that we need to have the expertise of the industry on our board. That's part of our internal audit, is to find out what we know, how we know it, what expertise we have, and that's going to help us find the holes. If there's a hole somewhere and we're like, shoot, we don't have anybody, but we need this part of our industry, that's our job to be able to find someone on that board, or find someone in the industry who can be on the board to help be that voice. Which includes, specifically, we look at vendors. We have a lot of our board members that are both operators and vendors, and we're going to be looking at how we can cross-pollinate those both, because those are our two big member, our member categories, both for members as operators and members as vendors. We're also creating advisory committees. This is a pretty big deal. In the past, there's a specific, we have bylaws of what we have to, as an association, what we have to abide by. But that said, we're creating advisory committees. How many of you have your members, and if you could have had legal counsel available to you, even for like 15 minutes, be like, hey, something's happening, I need some direction on who do I go to, what do I do? Would that be beneficial? Legal counsel? 85% of you said yes, according to the study. We're creating an advisory council of both members and board members and members, who some of these folks have been in the industry for 20 years in legal, on a variety of topics, it's literally the entire spread of the legal world. Those folks are going to be available. We're building an advisory committee for that so that members have an access resource point for that. Same thing with marketing. That was the second number two thing that people said was mostly important to them, of how they can better run an operation. So we're partnering with some marketing folks to be able to really build a stronger marketing campaign, as well as how we get content out to you all as members, but then also how you have support in the marketing world, and we're going to talk about that in just a second. Same thing with home haunting and startups. There's going to be an advisory committee for that, because again, those are out there. In my chaos class that Brett Molitor, past president, and I taught, I think probably 70-80% of the room had never been to Transworld before, and I think 40% of them were new operators or home haunters. So we know that that's growing, and as an industry, if you can't feel it yet, there is a very large shift that's happening within our industry. And so we want to make sure that we're ready for it, and that we can promote those people so they can come in, we strengthen the industry, we make more money. Pretty soon we'll take over the entertainment industry. Educate, we've already talked about most of this, so I'm going to burn through it really quick. Again, there's going to be trainings both in person and online. And we talked about the actor class. So let's talk about benefits really quick. So in this case, whether you're a $50 level, a $125 level, or a $250 level, right now, your membership is free. Most of you don't know that. That's part of what we're going to talk about today. Our goal is that by 2023, the highest tier that we have, $250 level, we want to make that a $1,000 value. And it's not like, hey, you get 50 cents off bacon at the grocery store. These are actual things that you've asked that you need, that you want, discounts that are applicable to what you're going to have, not just something that you might need once every 10 years. These are hopefully things you're going to need every single year. Yes, I love bacon, by the way. So in this case, take any one of those levels, the $50 level, 125 or 250. For the 125 and the 250 level, those are operating levels. So as you as a company, as a haunt, as an attraction, Fearworm, which is one of our vendors here, they're one of our clients, or we're their client at Fear Factory. But last year we partnered as a board with Fearworm and just said, hey, we have members that are asking us about marketing stuff. Do you mind if you can help us do something? 100% success rate of what this was, and so they've agreed to do this for the next 3 years for members. So it's a $250 value, free social media marketing audit. There's no strings attached. You don't get to buy anything. It's not a discount. It literally is them looking at your analytics. They're going to do an evaluation for you of what their audit entails, and they're going to provide you resources and content to be able to increase your current marketing strategy. That's it. It was beneficial for everyone last year. The enrollment for this is from December to March, so if you're writing any notes down, put a calendar reminder right now if you're a member at that 125 or 250 level, that between December and March, you need to reach out to Fearworm let them know that you're an HAA member. They'll double check that with us. They'll get that working for them. And this has been a huge benefit across the board. Second thing, for those of you that know Brian, Honduras Toolbox is a really good resource in our industry. There are hundreds of videos and content about how-tos, trainings, panels, discussions, what to do in our industry, all topic, very diversified. So we went to Brian, instead of us recreating the wheel and saying, oh, we're just gonna do all this again, this is us going back and supporting our vendors. So in this case, we went to Brian and said, Brian, you already have the resource that's available. How do we do this together? And in doing so, we'll help subsidize part of this, but members get a 2-for-1, essentially. So a lot of the people I've already talked to at our HAA booth have said, oh yeah, I'm already doing that. Well, now they get it for 50% off. They just saved $100. Other things, obviously the Haunted Attraction Association, there's a lot of things that we do specifically for what we do for our members. More events, those are going to be coming down the line as well. And of course, there's a lot of other things. So we have 10% off. These are specific vendors that we've used in the past. One of the things that I'm going to want is I want to be able to fill this entire space. That's literally why I put this here. Making sure that I want to be able to have 15 or 20 different vendors that are 10% off, that are vendors that are going to be here, so that as we look at things that you might be buying or that you're going to need, you've got that resource available to you. But these are just extra things on top of the already ROI that you're getting from that previous slide. So members get 10% off in a couple of different areas. I currently have 3 other folks that have reached out to us that have come to the booth and said, put me down for 20%, I'm in. So this 2.0 thing is really creating a ripple effect. People are starting to see it. They know we're serious. We're going to do what we can. There's also discounts at Sherwin-Williams. I'm sure none of us use black paint, but you should be getting your discount at Sherwin for that. So this is the vendor ROI that we talked about earlier. There's 3 different tiers about how vendors are going to be donating to us. These are all of the new things that we're doing for vendors. We want to be able to get this out there. We're going to be sharing this with the vendors as well because we want to be able to support them. So to wrap up, right on time. So we essentially took your feedback. That was the idea. We took your feedback from the entire area, from the association, from the industry, from our members, from our board. We took the feedback. The next step was to listen, to figure out what you need, be able to create some goals based off of what you need and what we have. That's where the action plan comes in. We're currently in this motion already. 2 of the 3 advisory committees are already put together. We've already got things moving on our end for, of these 70 different points within this 2.0 plan, I would say probably 30 of them are things we're already doing. Another 25 of them are already in motion. And the goal is to, by 4 or 5 months out, we want to be able to do a full launch of this. And then of course, we're going to be trickling and adding on based on our 1-year, 2-year, and 3-year plan. So, and of course, everything's going to be measured. So again, this is us as a board, as an accountability measure, is we're going to be standing up here next year having the same conversation whether we met this goal or not. And we're going to have checkpoints up here as far as what we did great, what we didn't do great, how we can make sure that we're doing things better across the board. Obviously, the goal is to make sure that 95% of what we've talked about today, we want to be able to roll that out. That's our goal, 95%. Obviously, we want to get to 100%. That's obviously realistic, but heaven forbid COVID happens again. The nice thing about some of these is they are insulated, so we're able to make sure that it happens. State of the industry, again, we're going to be doing this next year, and making sure that these end of the year surveys are going to be something that we can be gathering this information and the data, and it helps us recap to make sure that we're on the right path. And then, of course, our internal board accountability as well. So. All right, so I know we got to get over there. One of the things I can tell you of how we've taken things into account, we had a couple of folks at the in our data survey that said the one thing that sucks more than anything at Transworld is I want to learn about what's happening in the industry, and then I go over to Oscares and all the tables are full. Anyone else feel that way? Like I was here and I was like, yay. So everyone who's in Oscares, so one of the things that we looked at is we reserved some tables for those of you, because we don't know how many of you are planning on heading over there. But there's going to be tables that are specifically reserved for folks at the front to make sure that you all get to be there. Because you should be rewarded if you're in this room, right? Again, right? So that's part of, there's action behind what you've told us and how we're going to be doing all this. So So again, if you're interested in becoming a member or you want to be on an advisory group, if you feel like you've got the credentials to do that, this is it. We'll also again put this PowerPoint up so you can take a picture of it. I'm going to switch really quick to one more slide because in this case, for those of you that are here for Chaos class, this is a Chaos certification class. Come on up, don't block the projector because if your hand's right here, it's not going to work. But you can scan, this one's your Chaos certification class. If you want more information or you would like to be involved in how this plan is rolling out, you're going to want to scan the blue one. That's going to go to a form. Give us your information. We're going to follow up with you. So, obviously this is different than usual state of the industries. This rollout is pretty big. There's a lot of moving components to it, but we're pretty excited about it. Hopefully you can see that. If you have any questions, a couple of us are going to stay back. Oscars needs to get started. We got some really great people that we need to award in our industry for the year that have helped survive. These are all of our 2020 awards, and then we'll roll off our new awards. So, also, scholarships. If for those of you that aren't in Oscars, the 2022 scholarship applications are already open. So if you know someone, we have 3 scholarships that we give out every year. Fearworm, Froggies, and Bloody Mary. Those 3 sponsors help give us $3,000 to be able to give some really great humans in our industry some support as they move forward for college. So there's some cool stuff, so that's also open right now. So, thanks for being here. Sorry for the long-winded, but hopefully it's good info. Raise your hand if this was helpful and you feel good about kind of the direction we're going.
Thank you.
Awesome. Okay. We'll do what we can to support you. We're looking forward to it. If you have further questions, please come up and talk to us. Otherwise, thanks for being at Transworld. We'll see you at Oscars, and we'll see you on the floor. We'll see you at booth 2009. Yes, and don't forget, if you have Chaos, you can scan this. It's up here in the red. Or you can go talk to Billy or any of the board members. They can also sign your Chaos class. Yes, sir.